You guys know I'm going to have a field day with this article. Uber insiders are divided over Dara Khosrowshahi's leadership, with some worried the company has become boring and confused about its future. So we'll read this article. I'm sure there's many people like sucking up to this guy and kissing ass, right? Because they obviously fear their positions. But his management style, his understanding of humans and how to work with humans and how to bring out the best in humans is less than 0%, right? To me, over and over and over again, he has proven himself a big coward. He's afraid, right? I would completely agree that he comes across as a very confused and boring individual because he's all over the map. We'll try this, doesn't work, we'll sell that, right? Instead of sticking to the core of the business and building it out. And I can tell you, Lyft are doing a far better job. So this guy throws a lot of shit against the wall and hopes that something sticks. But I haven't read the article. I love the articles from Business Insider because they're thorough and they're great, and you can't get them anywhere else. You have to pay for this membership. It's not cheap. And they bring real good stuff. So I'm keen to find out what this a-hole is all about. But Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi faces worry from within inside the company, right? And if you're facing worry inside your company, that means either the people don't respect you or they don't have any faith in you. I think it's a combination of both. I've really focused on this guy because I believe my channel exposes a lot of the corruption and the flaws and the mismanagement, the poor management of this individual and the company/companies. But I'm also out there listening to feedback from other directors, CEOs that I speak to in the car. All my friends and subscribers bring a ton of feedback, and I try to pass that on. And hope that the company is aware of what is really happening out there on the street. For example, yesterday I made a video about what Uber drivers and Lyft drivers hate. And it is astounding how many people came forward and added to those 12, 15 points. I mean, we have over 100 different points, which would have a second and a third follow-up video coming on those additional points. Now, as a CEO, you want to dive in there and get your teams to find out why you're the number one hated company in the world, right? Or in the United States, it is. You want to understand why the drivers hate your company so much versus putting your hand in the sand like an ostrich, pretending that shit doesn't happen, never address safety, never address the concerns of drivers, and hope that things get better. That to me is not a CEO. That to me is a poor leader. So the Uber CEO, Dara Khosrowshahi, has kept an eye on Uber's bottom line as it pursues profitability. They have been pursuing profitability for a long time. Ain't happening. Some insiders praise his calm management style and steady hand, but others worry he lacks ambition, right? Critics say he allowed DoorDash to beat Uber Eats and hasn't articulated a larger vision. In fall of 2019, and by the way, before I start this article, I hope some of the investors in this company or the larger investors watch my channel, watch my videos. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully you're watching this video, hopefully you are an investor, that every single day I get about 300 text messages and emails. I respond to them. I interact with these drivers. I understand the pulse on the street, right? And I want to let you know whether you're a venture capital firm or an angel investor, the people do not like the CEO. I do not like this CEO. I call him out. And Fast Company has confirmed that it is the most hated company. Now, you're an investor. You put a lot of money into a company and you get the title as the most hated company. Ask yourself why. It starts on the top. It starts with the leadership. What leadership do you have in your company? None. So it's time that the investors get together, pay a little bit of attention to this channel, pay way more attention to all the drivers out there that are sending you signals, signs again and again and again, that your company is indeed rotting from the inside. How do you fix the problem? How do you plug the holes? How do you make sure you don't steer this Titanic towards an iceberg? You chop on the top. You chop on the top. You get rid of all that executive trash that I've called out, and you start restructuring the company with its executives. Now, in the fall of 2019, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi decided his employees needed a pep talk. It had been a rough few months since the company highly anticipated IPO. Uber was once Silicon Valley's hottest startup. Now investors couldn't sell their shares fast enough. The company's stock price was falling, and with its fortunes of employees who had dreamed their stakes would make them rich. Khosrowshahi, a former chief financial officer, filled an Excel spreadsheet with calculations mimicking how Wall Street analysis determine how much a company's shares should be worth. Dara's math, as some employees call it, in the auditorium of Uber San Francisco headquarters, he gave a lesson on how Wall Street thinks and how a company that has lost the faith of its investors can change their minds. So he is teaching his employees how Wall Street thinks. How, for him, it's important. How am I perceived by Wall Street or by the financial world or by my investors? That's a huge mistake. That's a huge mistake. Those individuals will think highly of you once things start working from the inside and the outside. On the outside, you've got these millions of drivers who are unhappy, right? Who are tweeting, who are posting their aggravations, their frustrations, their anger, right? How are you going to make Wall Street and the financial world happy if you have not even addressed your core problems, right? You are screwing drivers over, you are underpaying them, and you are not keeping them safe. So Wall Street, financial world, investors, listen up, right? You need to chop on the top. He made his case in technical terms, breaking down earnings, multiples, and fixed costs, but his point was simple. Uber was staring at a giant pool of money that would only expand in the years to come. If it could get a large chunk of that money into its pockets and trim expenses enough to become profitable, the rest would take care of itself. This was Khosrowshahi in his element, composed, analytical, fluent in the nuances of corporate finance and the language of Wall Street. His approach connected with some employees who appreciated his rigorous arguments. Those, to me, were the moments when Dara was at his best, said Laura Jones, a former senior marketing director at Uber. Right? I remember listening to him and being like, we're going to crush it. Stop kissing this guy's ass, Laura Jones. And don't be afraid. Like, be like that hero at Facebook, that lady who comes out and says, right, this is what Mark Zuckerberg is doing. You guys are kissing too much ass and blowing this guy too much, Laura Jones, that you're too afraid to tell the truth. But some of their colleagues were already skeptical that Khosrowshahi could turn his diagnosis into action. They feared he had dulled the company's competitive edge, turning a Ferrari into a Toyota Camry. No. It's not even turning a Ferrari. It was maybe like turning a Toyota Camry into a VW Bug 1600 single barrel carburetor, right? Reliable, yeah, it is, but very, very boring. It feels like we're copying a lot of what our competitors are doing as opposed to coming up with the ideas ourselves, a former Uber manager told Insider before they left the company. See, they leave the company first, and then they think they have the balls to speak up. You too, whatever your name is, you're a coward because you had the opportunity to speak up while inside the company and make a difference, but you only start using your voice when you leave. That shows very, very poor character. 4 years ago, Uber's board of directors, I call them the executive trash team, hired Khosrowshahi to clean up the mess left by co-founder and CEO Travis Kalanick. Now, let me tell you something about CEO Travis Kalanick. He definitely was chaotic, but he opened up the markets, he built the company, and he paid the drivers well. Not everyone loves him, but he took care of his people. Interviews with 33 current and former Uber employees suggest that Khosrowshahi has made the company kinder and more disciplined, but also some argue weaker and less ambitious. Now, weaker and less ambitious, I agree with, but kinder, right? Is there kindness within your walls in San Francisco? Maybe there is. Maybe he talks to you in a sweet, sweet, calm voice. But on the outside, I can tell you in the real world, whether it's in Sydney, Australia, Cape Town, South Africa, New York City, Miami, Florida, Houston, Texas, LA, California, there is no kindness towards the millions of people that are wheelbarrowing the cash in for you, right? And even some who gave him a positive grade overall shared some of his critics' concerns. If Khosrowshahi's instincts are right, Uber may be on its way to joining Amazon and Alphabet as one of the world's most valuable tech companies. Don't get excited about that, right? Because I can tell you, well, who am I? I'll let you be the judge. Look at Google, look at Amazon, and try and remotely compare Uber to it, right? You can't. You simply can't. Prove me wrong. So if he's wrong, Uber's trajectory could resemble that of AOL or Yahoo, a one-time innovator that lost its way as faster and smarter competitors surpassed it. I think that is a good comparison, right? They could be the AOL of the rideshare world. Stumbles in delivery and self-driving. 9 current and former employees told Insider they felt that Khosrowshahi didn't understand the company's apps as well as Kalanick did, or lamented that Uber made improvements and added features to them more slowly than it did under their old boss. Thank you. Right? His old boss, I tell you what, was aggressive and on the ball. Right? And as chaotic as he was, things were happening. Dara's fast asleep, my friends. It kind of started to feel like a boring place, a former vice president who left the company in 2020 said. It didn't feel like an exciting place to be. I wonder who that is. I'd love to meet him. They said this lethargy hurt Uber most visibly at Uber Eats, which by some measures led the US food delivery market for parts of 2018 and 2019. By 2020, multiple sources indicate DoorDash had taken the top spot and it hasn't given it up. DoorDash was more aggressive about adding restaurants and rolling out features, and Uber couldn't keep up, former employees said. I would open up DoorDash as an Uber employee and God, all my favorite restaurants are on it, and Uber has none of them, a former vice president said. So why would I use Uber? And he's right, or she's right. As DoorDash gained on Uber, 2 former executives told Insider some senior leaders discussed their concerns in meetings that included Khosrowshahi. Uber needed to add more restaurants and more aggressively target suburban customers. Lots and lots of alarm bells were raised to him, one of the former executives said. Khosrowshahi didn't seem moved by those concerns. He thought Eats was performing well, the former executive said, but if Kalanick had been in charge, listen to this, but if Kalanick had been in charge, this person added, he would have held daily meetings until Eats had stopped losing market share to DoorDash. And I 150% agree with that statement. Kalanick would have never been happy with those points brought up in a meeting. He would have played catch up and he would have overtaken DoorDash. Khosrowshahi doesn't even go out there with his $2 million security entourage because everyone's after him. He's checked out. He's unplugged. Investors, when will you see and when will you understand you have a pathetic captain on deck? In September, Uber's valuation briefly fell below that of DoorDash, despite DoorDash's smaller footprint and narrow focus on food delivery. As the largest global food delivery app outside of China, we are in a leading position in 8 of our top markets, an Uber spokesman told Insider. In the United States, we are laser focused on increasing merchant selection and are seeing solid results with the addition of tens of thousands of new partners across restaurants, grocery, convenience, and other retailers. Losing to DoorDash wasn't the only place Khosrowshahi critics felt he wasn't acting with enough urgency. In 2020, after 5 years of work, Uber's self-driving car unit had made little progress and was a frequent topic of discussion among executives outside it who thought it was wasting money and talent. Early in Khosrowshahi's tenure, some asked him to figure out why it didn't seem to be making progress, a former executive said. Then in early 2018, an Uber self-driving vehicle killed a pedestrian. The descent didn't let up, but Khosrowshahi said it was worth giving self-driving cars more time. A second former executive said he finally sold the unit in 2020, though it wasn't an easy decision. It was painful for him. Someone familiar with this thinking said Khosrowshahi didn't respond to Insider's request for comment. You see, he doesn't respond, he doesn't communicate because he can't, because he cannot work with people. This is not a people's person. This is not a true executive. This is not a man that connects with his drivers or with restaurateurs, right? He rather chooses not to comment, right? There's the problem. What are you going to do about it? I'd rather shut up. Uber stock price, ladies and gentlemen, right? Starting off at 45. Where is it now? It's back where it is. After all this time and effort of selling off companies, going nowhere, offloading, these sour apples, these bad apples, where are they? Still at the same parking spot. They haven't even left the garage. A steady hand with an eye on the bottom line. Where Kalanick could be inspiring one moment and abrasive the next, Khosrowshahi is steady, calm, and polite. Nearly all the current and former Uber employees who spoke with Insider lauded his interpersonal skills and emotional intelligence. One former vice president recalled how Khosrowshahi took them aside to thank them for changing his mind on a decision related to Uber's tech. Now, you took them inside and you thanked them. Has he ever gone out in public or on video, in Zoom calls or on YouTube Live and thanked the drivers from the bottom of their hearts? F all. Nothing. Zero. That's the type of vulnerability that Dara would show, maybe towards the executives, definitely not towards the drivers. They said it wasn't just you're right, it was you're right, I was wrong. As CEO, Khosrowshahi built up Uber's human resources and legal departments, which Kalanick had neglected, and ended a policy that forced employees and customers to quietly settle sexual assault allegations. He may have settled sexual assault allegations, one of his claims to fame. But I can assure you that there have been more lawsuits filed, more class actions, more lawsuits brought to Uber since Dara has been captain of the ship. Right? Every single day, there's some sort of lawsuit out there. It wasn't as bad under Travis Kalanick. Under Kalanick, Uber burned through cash. Khosrowshahi with an IPO to prepare for focused on the bottom line. One of his first moves was selling Uber's Southeast Asia business to Grab, a local competitor. Not everyone agreed with him, revealing a divide that would persist between those who thought Uber should pick its battles and those who felt it could win in difficult markets if it just kept fighting. Khosrowshahi worried that Grab would keep raising money, even on unfavorable terms, and force Uber to spend billions to keep up and gain ground in Southeast Asia. Someone who was involved in the discussions told Insider. Andrew McDonald, another prick, another total piece of executive trash, right? Now the head of Uber's mobility business was at the time leading the company's Asia Pacific division and wasn't sure his boss instincts were right. I wavered, McDonald said, but with the hindsight of 2020 vision, he added, it looks even better than I thought at the time. A few months later, in August 2018, Khosrowshahi hired Nelson Chai, Uber's first CFO in 3 years, to find and cut wasteful spending. He curtailed happy hours and reined in excess. At a retreat in Napa Valley, Chai joked that he wouldn't have approved the event if the company hadn't already paid for it before he arrived, two attendees said. After Uber's IPO in 2019, Chai and Khosrowshahi cut costs even more, laying off more than 1,000 employees, or about 4% of the company's workforce. Without the one-time windfalls from selling off parts of its business, Uber was still losing money, but Khosrowshahi and Chai had sent a clear message: think before you spend. Kalanick didn't respond to insiders' request for comment either. Worries about the company that has stopped thinking big. In early 2020, Khosrowshahi was determined to pull Uber closer to consistent profitability, but as COVID-19 sped through Asia, he was forced to focus on safety, sending masks, hand sanitizer, and disinfecting wipes to drivers. Bullshit. Didn't happen. And Uber's bank account, he started by cutting obvious expenses like the company's marketing budget. By the end of May, he had dismissed a quarter of the company. The belt tightening continued as it became clear the pandemic wasn't going to end anytime soon. In a span of 7 months, Khosrowshahi sold Uber's self-driving car division, its flying taxi project, and its bike-sharing business. Some within the company thought Khosrowshahi handled the pandemic skillfully. He was frank and at times even vulnerable with them, his supporters said, while making difficult decisions that put Uber on stronger footing. To others, selling off Uber's side bets highlighted how the company had stopped thinking big. They saw an Uber that focused too much on maintenance and not enough on coming up with new ideas, and a leader who had failed to articulate a compelling long-term vision beyond his march toward profitability. I think that the company is quite confused internally about where we are going, a current director-level employee said. What's your name? Reveal yourself. When Khosrowshahi looks to the future, he sees Uber becoming for ride-hailing and delivery what Amazon is for online retail. I don't agree with that. If Amazon owns next day, we want to own next hour, he told the Grey Matter podcast earlier this year. Whether Uber can accomplish that goal remains to be seen. Khosrowshahi's decency and attention to detail saved the company from its worst impulses. Now he has to prove that he's more than a steady hand in a time of crisis and that he hasn't sacrificed Uber's ambition in his pursuit of profit. So now that he has to prove, he's had enough time to prove, right, and show results. There's no more time to prove anything, ladies and gentlemen, investors. Your stock is at 45. It's not moving. He's had all the time in the world to prove to you that he was going to put this company on the right path, and he failed. When will you guys wake up and smell the coffee and take action and get rid of this executive trash team and start putting the company on the right path and start treating your labor, your workforce, your drivers, the people that bring in the money daily better, right? That, I think, will change the whole culture of the company. Not this ego-based, me, Dara Khosrowshahi, quiet, non-communicative, unkind individual as us drivers know. So I'll shut up right there. I wish you a great day. Really want your feedback on this. And it's a powerful article, right? It's a powerful article that people on the inside worry, right, that the company is falling apart. I hope that some former executive, some former manager, some sick and tired investor has the balls to come on my show. Have a great one.